Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. It's the Monday after the long 4th of July holiday. I apologize, I'm a little informal. I just got done with a quick run at the beach. On my way home here, I thought I'd stop off at the Crossings. The Crossings is one of the three coastal golf courses in Carlsbad. Over my shoulder is the 18th fairway and green. Just off in the distance is the parking lot to Legoland. And of course, on the horizon is the Pacific Ocean, which was really busy this weekend. I hope you guys had a great weekend. It's back to work. And I had something totally different on my mind to talk about today. But instead, this seems to be a golf course phenomenon. Whenever I come to a golf course, they have to come and blow leaves down behind me. So I apologize. They're cleaning off the artificial turf where they have weddings right below me. I don't think it'll go on for long. But I was going to talk about something else. I was going to talk about the signals the markets are sending on interest rates and the strength of the market, and I may get to that. But I had another thought when I was out on my morning run this morning, and it was on separation season. And I first came across separation season in an Ed Milet podcast, and he's done a couple of them. And most recently, I want to say a few months ago, man, he brought the fire. And when he was talking about separation season, he was talking about separation season is when other people take their foot off the gas, then they coast. And that's when he eagerly puts his foot hard on the gas. Like when it's holidays, it's the Friday after Thanksgiving or the Friday after, 4th of July or the Monday after 4th of July. Like in those periods, if we just keep our foot on the gas, we can separate ourselves from our competitors who may be coasting. By the way, and who may be coasting through the summer. In hot locations, certainly in Scottsdale where I live, a lot of people take the summer off or coast during the summer. People find reasons to coast all the time. They coast during the holidays, whatever their cadence is. But when when your competitor is coasting, that gives you a chance to separate from them because you can go full speed. So I was thinking about that, and that's a common kind of concept. So I didn't think I would talk about that today. But what I wanted to talk about is our separation season isn't a day or a holiday. It's the transformation that our industries are going through, right? And I talk about all the time the storm and the new normal. You know, to be able to have separation today, it's structural. It's not one day's effort. It's one day intentionally building a better future in the new normal that will create separation. So today, as I'm thinking about it, I'm gonna, buckle in today. I think to myself, what am I gonna do? What one, paver am I gonna place in the road of transformation that is going to take me to the future where I'll thrive? And that's how I think we have to work all summer. It's just not good enough to run faster on the hamster wheel. What road can I pave? What road of transformation can I pave that will set me apart from my competition and set me up to succeed in the new normal in the future, right? And because, the saying is a rising tide lifts all boats. And I shared an article a few weeks ago from Garth Graham from Stratmore, and he argued that's not the case in the next market. The rising tide will not lift all boats. And he was polite about it, but the fact is, the rising tide may sink quite a few boats. It may capsize quite a few boats because the boats aren't going to be seaworthy to last in that ocean. And that's probably going to be the truth, right? I posted an article the other day. It was a fascinating article. It had statistics. I don't remember who it was from. It might have been from them, but it had statistics on capture rates. And then it said, servicers set a record of having 40% capture out of the refinances from their servicing book, meaning of everyone that in their book that reserviced, that refinanced, they captured 47% of them. So they only had about 53% leakage. And that was an all-time high because today, servicers have really improved their relationships with their clients and the service and the experience. And they're very intentional about keeping that customer. And so if you're an IMB, loan officer that doesn't have servicing, or your company sells your servicing, which is understandable, how are you going to compete against that? If they're going to already take half your potential market, what are you going to build? How are you going to transform to go beat them? Stan Middleton, brags that it takes him about 30 basis points to refinance one of his, customers in his servicing book. How do you compete with that? How do you provide more? How do you provide more value? How do you compete on rate? And those are the things that we need to build right now. Similarly, in that article I'm referring to about capture rates on refinances, Existing lenders that have their own servicing capture about 29% of past clients. And then people that sell their servicing, those servicers capture about 47%. That starts to be a pretty narrow market that we get the opportunity to go win in. And we're going to have to figure out how to go win in that market, or else that tide's not going to lift our boat, right? And so, just wrapping up this concept on separation season, what can you do today to build that road that's going to transform you to thrive in the future? It's not good enough today and go, hey, I'm going to make 10 more phone calls. That's not good enough. It's what strategy are you going to deploy? What value are you going to build? What new concept? How are you going to innovate? How are you going to be the choice of consumers? Or if you're a lender, how are you going to be the choice of loan officers and employees? So that was my thought for today. I will tell you, I want to talk about some signals. That was really what I was going to talk about. And here's what it struck me. I always think that we can believe our eyes more than what we read. Like, believe what you see and feel over, what you read or data. And for the longest time, going back all year long, I didn't believe that was going to cut interest rates. I didn't believe that inflation was coming down quickly enough because my eyes told me there's a labor shortage. I go to a grocery store and there wasn't enough workers and the shelves weren't stocked. I go to a restaurant and half of it was closed because they didn't have people to work in the restaurant. By the way, which is the case here today. I'm sitting on the balcony of the Canyons restaurant at the Crossings. It's closed because they don't have employees to staff it. It would normally be open this morning at 7 o'clock. But you go to a restaurant, you go to get your car worked on and it takes 3 weeks to get an appointment because they don't have the people to do the job, right? And so I was witnessing or experiencing labor shortages. And so I knew from my own experience that there was a lot of upward pressure on wages. And so today that's changed a little bit, but still trust your eyes. And when you see things out in the world, try to interpret what it means. Like use your own experiences as a guiding as your guide, not necessarily some analyst opinion. And so this weekend, it was interesting. Usually here at the beach, 4th of July is crazy busy, especially if it's a long weekend, like a 4-day weekend. I mean, it's like you can't move around. It's better just to get on a bike to go to the store or go to the beach or whatever, because it's just impossible. And then as you get to the beach, the beaches are usually completely 100%, overpopulated by 6 a.m. And it's really just a zoo, and it's fun to people watch. But something really interesting happened this weekend. It wasn't that busy. I mean, don't misunderstand me. It was busy. It was packed, but it wasn't insane. And you could actually get to a restaurant and get a seat at a reasonable time. And you could go to a gas station and get gas, and the grocery stores tend to have, 60-foot lines in each checkout. It just wasn't as busy as it's normally been. And that's really interesting given how hot it is, to the east of us. Usually when, cities to the east are having record heat, that drives people to the ocean. It's 75 here during the day. If you go slightly inland, it's 85, 90. But it's beautiful here, right? And so if you're in Palm Springs where it was 124, or if you're in Death Valley where it was 130, or if you're in Phoenix where it was 119, or any of those cities, where you're 100 plus 100, makes sense to come to San Diego. But that didn't happen. And that's not to say it wasn't busy. It just wasn't crazy. And then I try to pay attention. I frequently go on jogs at the local state beach, which is at camping. I did a Facebook Live there a week ago, I think, about 210 camping spots. And normally those spots are occupied at this time of year with really expensive motorhomes and trailers. Like, I try to count how many $1 million motorhomes are parked in those 210 spots, or how many super luxury motorhomes and trailers. And there's been, holidays and years where half the park is all luxury RVs, right? But to me that signals something. Now, I'm not exactly certain what it signals, but I can tell you this past weekend, it wasn't that at all. It was families with pickup trucks and Coleman tents. Over 75% of the sites were Coleman tents. There weren't even trailers, right? And even more interesting, a usual campsite, one or two families camp, but this weekend it seemed like it was 4 or 5 families. There was like 6 or 7 tents on every small little camping pad. And so the big luxury things weren't here, and the big high end camping gear wasn't here. It was blue collar families camping in tents, and that tells me that there's a signal there if we can figure it out. Now, what I'm starting to think that signal is consumers are pulling back, right? Consumers are starting to pull back their spending, and they're starting to choose the lesser expensive thing over the more expensive thing. Now, it could be all sorts of uncertainty. It could be just the high cost of items. It could be the political environment. It could be the, it could be global. I mean, who knows what's driving the anxiety? But whatever it is, it feels like consumers are pulling back. And as we know, if consumers pull back, right, that's anti-inflationary, and that will be one of the signals the Fed will look for to start lowering rates. And that's the next thing. I will tell you, they're starting to get, a preponderance of signals that suggest the economy is slowing down and it's time for the, Fed to cut rates. I posted an article this morning on LinkedIn. It was from, I think it was from Inman. I don't have it with me, but it spoke to, the Fed's rate decisions coming forward, and it quoted a couple of analysts. And, there's analysts now thinking that the Fed might cut rates as much as, 150 basis points this year. I don't believe that, by the way, but there's analysts arguing that. And FedWatch, which is kind of like a survey of economists, thinks there's going to be a cut in September and, a 25 basis cut in September and maybe a 25 basis cut in December. That's what I think, by the way. And that's definitely what I think. So, you're going to start to see the Fed cut. Now, it's not going to be radical. It's going to be higher for longer, right? Because there's still a lot of strength in the economy. So it'll be a quarter point, maybe in September, maybe a quarter point. I mean, the data will drive it. Maybe a quarter point in November, maybe a quarter point in December. We don't know. But it seems like we've hit the peak on rates. Now, I'm saying that knowing anything can happen. And I'm certainly no expert, and, the election will all have an impact. But that's, it's a good sign. Energy prices. The average price of gas in the United States on July 4th, 3 days ago, was $3.51. You know what it was 2 years ago? $5.51. It's $2 cheaper in 2 years. And energy has been a huge driver of helping lower inflation. Now, I think energy costs might go up in the near future. And we certainly are going to probably challenge $95 a barrel of gas sometime in the end of the third quarter, maybe. But another thing, first time ever in the United States now produces more energy than it consumes. Hasn't happened before. Is that crazy? Hasn't happened in a century. So we now produce more energy than we consume. That's a great sign, right? That's a sign energy prices are coming down. And that's another signal. There's all sorts of signals telling us that, consumers are starting to, back down. Energy prices are coming down. Labor costs are starting to slow. We're at 3.9% month over month, year over year, month over month annualized, which is too high. The Fed wants that under 3%. You know, I mean, good signals. So here's what I would say. More than likely, we have some seasonality, so some headwinds. So we probably are hitting peak volume right now, but it won't die as much as last year. I mean, the trend will be better in the last 2 quarters this year than last year. It'll be a little bit flatter, and then next year it's going to be a better year. But next year it's going to have its own challenges, and the challenges will be the consumer demanding more for less, more competition, thinner margins. So the thing I would encourage everybody in our separation season, spend that extra energy, that extra 1%, 2% you give to building something transformative that will help you succeed in the future. So that's what I got. This will probably be my last remote. I don't know how these things look or appear. Probably stick to doing it more at my desk. But I appreciate you guys, letting me be out and about. I hope you enjoyed sights and, I guess, sounds, the blowers from Carlsbad, and get to it. Today's the day to separate. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Have a good day.